you are listening to this at the gym right now, Frederico, you could do it.
I
Keep
hope you
going.
are just at the bottom of a squat, just really going.
Benching the trainer on top of you.
And I just went, this next one is from Frederico. And she's trapped under the weight. Like.
So Shazam,
Fury of the Gods.
Shazam, Fury of the Gods, a film we haven't seen and we're not going to see.
And very much out of my sphere of cognizant film thinking.
We both saw the first one a few years ago. And I was looking at the bus poster that went past.
The
I was
primary
just feeling
colour.
absolutely nothing towards that film.
It looks like a Power Rangers action figure display.
I think I'd rather see a film about the music app, Shazam.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather see. I think I'd rather see a 2-hour film about someone pressing the. Guys, could you be quiet a second? I'm just trying to. Yeah. Oh, it was in sync.
Aaron Sorkin writes it. It would be like your best friend is suing you for this recording app.
I would like a David Cronenberg version where an iPhone is struck by a bolt of lightning and Shazam becomes sentient, and then it's absorbing all songs of all time to record the greatest hit.
Yeah.
And maybe this is beyond.
And the lightning just happens to be the frequency of Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston. It's like perfect marriage.
But yeah, I'd rather watch a movie about Shazam than Shazam, bizarrely. I mean, I look at that.
Why is the second one so much more
repellent
appealing to me? There was a factor of the first one, which was, it's like the sort of Tom Hanks big, but with superheroes, and he's sort of figuring out what powers he has. There was this little bit of charm to it, and he was with foster care. There's kind of a fun bit there. But
I think
very Space Wizards.
I think the reason I feel so mad about it is that poster is telling you too many different, pulling you too many different directions. So Shazam, you're like, okay, well, I sort of remember that from 4 years ago. Even though it didn't have that much of an imprint on it. We've had a pandemic in the middle. So it's like, okay, 4 years ago, how do I feel about Shazam? Okay, it was kind of funny. Then you've got Fury. Whoa, Fury. I don't associate the words Fury and Shazam very well. Of the gods. Gods? We're going for God. I thought we were like kids.
Especially as it's not releasing in a vacuum, we have a lot of choice when it comes to our comic book stories, you know?
It doesn't help that we know that all of this is going to be like scrapped anyway. Yeah, like all of the DC stuff's going to be rebranded, so it's hard for me to really care or invest.
Why should I watch the musicians playing on the Titanic and buy their album? You know, it's like it's all going down.
That's so dark. That's so dark.
That's how it feels watching like DC films right now. It's like, why would I pay attention? This is all just going to slowly sink into the ocean.
Jesus.
And they'll do another one.
I will say I do like Zachary Levi.
Yeah,
he's always good presence.
Got a nice warmth to him.
Yeah. Anyway, there's that. Also, I went to see yesterday the hottest show in London. I was very lucky to get a ticket to Cabaret. You know, you heard about it? You know, the way they're doing it like an exclusive thing.
I've seen the bus ads, yeah.
I'm just going to take a sip of this mug because I've been holding it by my face for about 3 seconds and not actually doing anything, and I'm just getting really hot.
Have you seen videos of people who keep holding their tea and they're about to take it and everyone's like, take a sip of your tea, and it's been like 10 minutes of them waiting to take a sip.
Went to see Cabaret, which was great. It's kind of half immersive experience, half theatre. Fantastic. And Sally Bowles is played by Amy Lou Wood.
Oh, right,
and Amy Lou Wood seems to be kind of like a running thing for us because you and I don't watch Sex Education, right? We saw Living and we were like, whoa, she's great. She's wonderful in that. Nominated then for a BAFTA Rising Star. Yeah. Then I went to, and then we rubbed shoulders with her at the Newport Beach Film Festival. Didn't see her, but we could tell from afar that she looks like a lot of fun.
You and me were like, that's Amy Lou Wood.
That's Amy Lou Wood over there. Actually, we felt sorry for her because she was stuck talking to some really boring guy. It was
not anyone we know.
Not anyone we know, just like someone from a different organisation just being like, and here's the thing about what we... And she was like, yeah. Oh, right, yeah. Anyway, and she's in this, and I was watching and I was like, she's got real star power. Yeah. She just does. I really enjoyed watching her. She's got a great voice. I mean, who knew? And it's just that thing again of, wow, here's someone at the beginning of a very illustrious career.
Maybe this is just because I've been paying attention because podcast, but I feel like we've got a really good crop of up-and-coming British talent. Actors. I know we always have had, but I feel like there's so many people you can look at and go, yes.
Name another one.
Paul Mescal.
He's Irish.
Sure.
Name another one.
Fuck, now you're asking me, don't do that. There's no one.
And the next thing you'll say, you'll go, Tom Hiddleston. I'm like, he's 40. Like, that's 10 years out of Tom Hardy.
I didn't go to the event. There's a lots of them. All sorts of good
Yeah,
talent.
even if you said Taron Egerton, I'd be like, that's a bit.
Yeah,
even
he's
that's a
old
bit
now.
old now.
He's got Tetris coming out, which looks good.
Yes, that's
could go either way,
that's a
but I'm gonna
film.
watch it.
I mean, how do you make a film about Tetris? I mean, it doesn't look like an interesting story.
It's the game you know, the story you don't. I
Oh,
think that's kind
brilliant.
of.
I
the
played
appeal of it.
Tetris in front of my girlfriend the other day, and she had no idea what it was.
Stop.
She was like bemused. She was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "No, it's Tetris." And I saw
didn't
her.
know Tetris.
It was like giving someone crack for the first time, and I saw her be like, "Oh my god!"
She literally discovered, like, where's the blue one?
I could see the blocks like going in
Yeah.
front of her eyes. She was like, "Oh my god!" And we sucked in. On that point, sorry, talking about Tetris. If you like Tetris and you're going to watch that Tetris film, one of my favorite college humor sketches. You remember college humor?
Yeah.
On the one of the best sketches was the Tetris God, and it was this idea that
Choosing what would
the
go.
God brings down stuff, and he's got these two assistants, and he's like. L block, a difficult choice, my lord, but the mortal can handle it. It's like square, squiggly, and then obviously it builds, and they're like, "You're a cruel and angry god." Line piece. No, you toy with him, sir. Line piece. Very good sketch. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome
Anyway.
to episode 69.
Yes,
of
I
PULP
think
Kitchen.
we should say welcome because obviously a lot of returning listeners, welcome back. But you
Plenty
might
of
be
new listeners.
you might be a new listener, and if you are a new listener, welcome, welcome to the show. If you like film, you're in the right place. We'll be talking about it, having a little chit chat, lots to sink your teeth into. So wherever you are, sit tight.
And welcome
Hello
to the show.
To this show.
69 episodes in. Very
Yes.
fun time to be us.
It is, and whoa, we're creeping ahead of the old 70.
Yeah, 70.
God, I wish we could say we had big plans for episode 70.
Yeah, we're sort of like, someone who should maybe think about stepping down. We're like a sort of,
you've been doing this for 70
episodes. Like they didn't retire because they had a very prestigious career in their 60s,
dear.
but now it's like maybe we should phase it back. I can't wait for us to like exceed the lifespan and we cannot make comparisons to where we are in life. So, well, 108.
Yeah, just on the ventilator.
Yeah.
Anyway, on with the show. Oh, never mind.
What?
No, I just wrote your
Oh, it's fine.
No, but it's visually, you are...
You're looking at a very grayscale version of it. Look at that one. It's more colourful.
It's just white on white.
I know, but
I just think...
I know what you mean, but
we
it's
should... We
podcast.
should... Yeah, I know, but...
It's too late now. It's a good thing you're in green. Against the green,
You look like
fucking
you could do
hypocrite.
You look like you should be doing the
prison.
No, yeah, you do look like a prison yard.
And they're like, you're visiting me in prison.
So even if it had a logo or a sticker on it or something, maybe...
Should I just hold this?
All right, well, I tried.
George, it's
I
fine.
know, I
You're
just think-
massively overthinking.
I know, but I just want us to be perfect, okay?
It's fine.
I thought about what I was wearing.
He's also a videographer. He said that this is the best looking podcast he knows of.
Not for long.
Isn't that nice though? He's like, oh, it's like
Best looking.
best
that's nice.
looking. He's like, it looks better than Joe Rogan.
Hell yeah.
Which like,
Joe Rogan it's a bit webcam-y.
yeah, it is a bit. Like obviously like very nice studio. It's very like, so he's got sort of like man den, cigars, whiskey and stuff. But like,
What I
think
don't understand is
quality is
with
better.
like Howard Stern, like they film it up there in like the corner. It's like
it's really
security
like
for
CCTV. Yeah.
So what do you, how did you work
Maybe
with
that's the trick because it's a bit, if you've got guests and there's like big camera in their face,
Oh,
it
that's
probably is a bit much.
Yeah, and they always sit them on a sofa. But then they
Yeah.
put like Howard Stern in a booth.
And then they always, the guest talent always has to like lean over to kind of talk like
Yeah.
in an awkward angle. And Howard's very comfortable. He's like, no, so you do the movie, and he says what? He says what do you?
just run me through again your
got the
your
part.
process. Are you gunning for the Oscars?
So Kate Winslet takes the part. You don't have it. I can't do it very well.
Anyway,
I think there's something about the way his mic is. It's like it's very croaky. It's that kind of.
He's also just he's been doing it for 30 years.
It's that
30, 40
even
years.
tone. The volume is always the same.
same.
Whereas you and I, we go, oh,
don't
he's-
we? My God.
And he's just blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a few weeks ago, we got an email from best friend of the show,
Best friend of the show.
Bevan.
Oh.
Bevan.
Bevan. Oh,
Bevan.
Bevan. Oh, I'm usually meant to think of... Oh. Dun, 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 dun. A Bevan Nation army couldn't hold me back.
Because you make me feel like I'm in locked out of Bevan. Bevan, I'm sorry, but you did request it in
S
your
Club
email,
Bevan.
So here we go. S
Ain't no club like a Bevan.
Ain't no club like a Bevan.
Anyway, welcome, Bevan.
Bevan writes in. Was Bevan our first email?
No.
She was like
she wrote in
one of the first weeks.
I want to
we
make
had
a
an
point
email.
of this, but there are other listeners and there
Yeah,
are
yeah,
other people
of
who
course.
email in. And
we
everyone is
we
special
tried
in
to
my
read
eyes.
everyone out.
But we mentioned Bevan because we don't know any other Bevins. I've never met another Bevan.
And I think it's quite nice to say, yeah, Bevan wrote an email.
Bevan. And also it's specific. Bevan's first email was specific to Irish cinema.
Bevan
so
always giving loads of love on
Irish
social
cinema.
media as well, straight in with a like
Yeah.
on all the stuff.
You know that bit at
Really
the end of the
just-
episode where we say like and subscribe and give us a thumbs up?
Bevan
does it,
Bevan
to
is
be
literally
fair.
smashing her phone every time that happens. That's why we have so much love for Bevan. Bevan writes in and says, "Hey guys," she actually writes in with a very funny story that we can't read out on the show, but Bevan, just so you know, we both read it. We thought it was hilarious,
Yes.
and it was great.
Thanks for letting us
She
know.
then writes in about God's creatures. I think you mentioned one thing, which I'm just going to omit from the email. So when I go, that means I'm just omitting a certain plot point from the
Okay.
email. But that's it.
So
We're
this
gonna
is
talk
teeing
about-
up your review.
This is teeing up my review. Bevan says, "Hi guys, hope you're both doing well.
Thank you, Bevan. I am. Hope you are too.
The reason I'm writing in, I saw God's Creatures 2 weeks ago. I was really intrigued because it was Paul Mescal, who I love, playing a more kind of role, which is quite different from what we've seen him do. Recently, also, I've been trying to go to films without researching/reading too much about them beforehand because it just ruins the film for me personally. Because then I have someone else's thoughts already kind of telling me what to think, if that makes sense. Bevan. Totally makes sense. Try
Legit.
and do that as much as you can. And I'll get into why for God's Creatures, if you can, know as little as possible going in. And I will do my best to not talk too much about the
good.
plot. It's like George in the film trailers, if that makes sense. So I was going into
Yes.
this film pretty blind, not knowing about it except the cast. And I was gripped by this film. The soundscape was the first thing that I noticed. The use of music and sound design throughout the piece made for a gripping addition to the well-told story. The acting from all involved was exceptional, with particularly memorable performances from Aisling Franciosi. Is it Aisling? Is that how you say it? Aisling Franciosi? Yeah. Aisling Franciosi, Emily Watson, and Paul Mescal. A story that could happen anywhere, but with this Irish small-town setting, it feels all the more personal and real. It's not out for a few weeks, I don't think, here, so I imagine it's the same time in the UK when yous have a chance to see it. I would love to hear your thoughts. Just Bevan throwing in a bit of Irish.
Thank you for that email, The Banshees of Inner Bevan.
Yes. I've been loving the pod and games at the end of the pod too. The one-word association one is my fave, but I find I say other films to the ones you have listed sometimes. Lol. Looking forward to hearing the next step. And when you read this email, which song you put my name into next?
Well,
Your friend.
see you earlier.
Bev. Well, you got many there. I hope that I can kind of see, you know how like we keep like reinventing the games and now it's like just one word.
Yes.
I can't wait to be like, what film am I guessing based on how high I raise my eyebrows? It's just like... like
Do you
a
remember,
twitch.
like in like episode 3, I tried to do an audio described version of a film poster, and that was impossible. I would go nowhere online now. Anyway, God's
We've gotta
Creatures,
come up
James.
some
So
more.
Bevan's teed us up. Then what's it about?
That's exactly right. This is what I'm going to say. I knew very little
Yeah.
about God's Creatures going in. The only thing I knew was that Bevan had recommended it. I'd kind of heard about it, but I knew nothing
Same.
about the
I
plot.
knew that Paul Mescal was in it, and it was like everyone was
Yes.
saying, "Well, that's the next thing he's in after all this Oscar buzz."
Exactly. And I'm really glad I didn't know much about it. And I'm going to do my best to tell you, I think
Thank
this
you.
film is great and I think you should go and see it, but I'm not going to sort of tee up what these themes are about. If you do want to go and see it, don't Google it. Don't try and get a sense of what this film was trying to tackle because it does it really well. So God's Creatures is directed by Sheila or Sailor Davis, sorry if I haven't got that right, and Anne Rose Holmer, and it's their first time doing a feature as a debut director combo. And it's called God's Creatures, and it is set in a very small, remote Irish fishing village. And it's one of those very small towns where everyone who works in the town works in the fishing industry. And you've got this sort of gendered divide between the men of the town who go out very early in the morning or even in the middle of the night when the tide is at its lowest to go out and catch fish and to farm oysters from these trestles where they go out and get it. And the women, one of them, which is played by Emily Watson, works in a seafood sorting facility where the oysters and the fish come on these conveyor belts and they sort it and check them and throw out the old ones. And everyone who basically works there works for this fishing industry. And from the get-go, in the opening scene, one of the men has died from being out at sea. And you get this very immediate sense that the water and how fast the tide rises and falls and comes in and out is very dangerous. And it is very quick to change. The wind sweeps across this town. And at any moment, there is this impending sense of threat and danger and doom. And one of the sort of mothers of the town is absolutely distraught because she's lost her son to the fishing. Emily Emily Watson's son, played by Paul Mescal, out of nowhere comes back into this town. And we know that he is basically, for some reason, moved to Australia, kind of sort of wandering as a nomad. And for some reason, we don't know why, he has decided to come back into the town. Okay. He's kind of lost for something to do. So what does he decide to do? He's like, right, I'm going to go and find our oyster farming. I'm going to sort of set that up again, lay it all out, build it, start a harvest that, in a year's time we can make, just sort of get back on my feet, reconnect with the local town. And that sort of creates a lot of politics because everyone works in this fishing village, they're very much beholden to who gets access to what resources, who's got access to the nets. There's all sorts of difficulties to do with the way in which the water comes in and whether or not you have access to actually go and fish and how dangerous that is. And also, people can be poaching other people's things. It's very political over who gets the chance to actually go out. If, for example, there is a fungus that infects one of the crop of their oysters, the whole fishing operation of that town has to shut down, right? Wow. That means that the men can no longer go out to go get fish, or they'll have their license suspended, and therefore there's no fish for the women who work in the seafood factory to process, so no one can work. God. So you really get the sense that, what happens to this environment and who works on it, very much sort of people are really beholden to this
ecosystem is so fragile, not just obviously of the literal ecosystem you just said, but
exactly. Yeah. And there are sort of certain awkward dynamics that come in when Paul Mescal comes back into the fray into this film. It is so A24, cloudy, overcast, windswept, grey, austere, slightly bleak, gorgeous to look at. But whilst you could look at it and say, oh, it's very grey and sort of slightly flat, there is such a wonderful and purposeful use of colour. And I absolutely fell in love with the cinematography. And there's a lot of things which I think could pass you by, but once you start noticing the little cues it's giving you and the way in which it purposefully uses colour, it's so many interesting ideas start going through your head. And I don't want to say anything more about the plot, apart from the fact that it ended and I thought, wow, so many ideas are running through my head. And I really think when you do see it, you and I should have a catch-up conversation about what this film was about. Bevan mentioned the score, and I have to agree with her. It is beautiful and uplifting and sweeping, but also there's so many moments where the score really fractures and breaks and screeches. And I mentioned in the beginning, there's this very clear impending sense of doom and warning, and that is, done all the way throughout, both with its score and its use of color. The use of the color red, I immediately sort of knew what they were doing, and I thought it meant one thing in the way in which they were invoking this color, and then towards the end, it made you feel something completely different about what it was doing color. The way in which it uses color to present one thing in one frame at the end of a scene, and then it starts the next frame, and the way in which something like religious iconography is immediately replaced over that was just brilliant. Again, ideas I'd love to unpack once we get into it. There is this idea, again, just to rip off what Bevan said about a story that has happened, could happen everywhere, and could probably have happened a million times in a million different communities, but is shown what happens when it happens to a very small community, I thought was brilliant. You framed a really big problem that is universal, and you've attributed it and used the lens of a very small, cohesive family unit in a town to make a much bigger point. Really, Emily Watson is such a powerhouse in this. She's got these wonderful big eyes where every single look and blink could just mean 1,000 different words. She is so good in this. Paul Mescal is doing something completely different in this, and he continues to be one of the most interesting actors around. Yeah, sure. I feel like really boring just saying all of the same things we've been saying for a while. And also shout out to Aisling Franciosi. I don't want to say anything else about it, apart from please go and see it. It was a joy to look at, a joy to hear, and the performances are incredible. And I want to, it's frustrating because I could easily go in and sort of talk more about its themes. Please go and seek God's Creatures Out. It's very good.
Thank you. I will definitely try and watch that by the next time we record.
Yes.
So we can tee it up now. People can go and watch it, and then you and I can catch up about it next week.
Yes.
I've heard really good things, and that's just definitely set me up for it. It reminds me, I haven't seen that film, so I don't think I don't want to stretch the comparison here. Did you ever see Bait from 4 years ago? It's a Cornish film. I only thought about it because it's about a small fishing community in Cornwall, but that also doubles as a second home tourist destination. And so the whole plot of that is that you've got this kind of like lobster catchers and fishers, but then there's this compromise with making boat rides for the tourists when they come down, and these people who come out from out of town and just don't understand. They spend 6 weeks of a summer in a much better house than people live in all year. That community, and that tension's really great. But the way that Bait was filmed was shot basically like 1920s like Russian montage films, where it was made on really low grade film stock, black and white film stock, with audio post-synced. And it's that kind of thing of like, that kind of audio crackle. And it would be a dead, like, still no camera panning or anything, just static, like, what are we doing about doing that later then? I think we should do this. And it creates that kind of weird, slightly timeless, but also slightly surreal thing. And there's moments in it when they do flash forwards, which are really clever. I don't know how relevant that is to that, but I just thought I'd also flag that film because that's another gem out there, similarly about coastal conflict.
Yes, a film that immediately came to mind to me, which you could draw a lot of comparisons to, is What Richard Did.
Yes,
very similar.
Great.
And I once I sort of, I loved the cinematography, and I googled cinematographer, which is done by Chase Irvin, and I sort of looked at an interview he did about this, and he was talking about the use of color, which was really brilliant. And what was interesting is he also shot Andrew Dominic's Blonde. Which
beautiful
beautiful looking film, but visually you would not know that this is from the same person.
No.
Like God's Creatures really does try to shoot on longer lenses to keep you at a real distance from its characters, and I think not trying to give you one person's perspective and to look at afar from who these people are. Whereas I'd say that in Blonde we have a much more intimate and up close portrayal of Marilyn Monroe and those characters. And I found it really interesting to see that both from the same person's work. But yeah, adored the way it looked.
Great.
It's not just an overcast Irish film. And I'd say this and Women Talking have shot straight to the top of my films of 2023. Great. And you could do an elite double bill
of small town communities.
Small town communities doing back to back with these films. If you haven't seen Women Talking and God's Creatures, you could watch them both.
Okay, great.
And have a very, very good time.
On the director duos, so had these directors done solo work individually, but it's the first time they've come together to work. I
think they've done some shorter projects together, but this is their first as a duo feature.
Right, because there was last week, the film you reviewed last week, 65. That was That was the director duo. When you mentioned that, I remember because Scream 6 was also a director duo.
Right, okay.
And obviously, the Daniels have just won the award, the Oscar for directing, director duo. And it got me thinking about whether that's a more common thing now, more prevalent. Are we seeing an increase in the amount of director duos? The Coen brothers is probably the most famous example. And it's like, but I remember seeing an interview with Daniel Kwan where he talks about what he enjoys about being in a director duo. And that, you do get to, especially with a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where, you're so often probably coming up with really exciting ideas. You're like, oh my God, I don't know whether that'll work. But you have someone immediately right there that you can bounce it off of. Or when you're trying to work at that energy, someone's flagging, the other person can come and say, no, let's build you back up again. There are probably pros and cons, and maybe it just suits people's working style. I'm sure some people are just completely on their own. But I'm wondering if like the demands of filmmaking now are just so much that actually the model works better when it's a director duo team. And then it's more of a, I don't know. All I could say is, doing this show as a duo, if either of us were doing this solo, completely different operation. And this is a tiny little podcast we're running. Imagine making a film.
The complication of being with a duo is that you've also got to be on the same line as that person. You've got to basically, like in one sense, there's a benefit. If you think about,
you sense check everything, right?
Yeah, you have, like if you're the Russo brothers and you're doing Endgame,
thank you, another one.
What an undertaking to try and do that. Versus like the directors can have two simultaneous conversations with actors and actually get twice the work done when you've got all of that to do.
Yeah.
Also, but then you've got to like not be checking in with each other and be like, well, what do we think about this? You can't be like
they've
deciding on the day.
Mind.
Completely in one piece.
And also, like, you can imagine on the day when people are running up to them with loads of problems, there's two of them, you've just...
Double the problem solving.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the Russo brothers, I haven't thought about that.
Because I've had people be like, oh yeah, like, really want to do a podcast, like, 'cause I've seen you do it. I'm like, oh yeah, like, by all means, go for it. Like, yeah, like, I want to do it. So there's like me and 3 other people we want to like... And I was like... by all means, go for it. But I would hate to have to organise the schedules of 4 people to meet every week. Again, podcasting is not making a film. But I was like, just organising that and deliberating between that many people sounds like an absolute nightmare to me.
We just, just taking that as like a kind of flippant example.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, God's Creatures. I will definitely check that out. I hope we can talk about it next week. Have you seen God's Creatures like Bevan have? Do you disagree with James? Do you agree with James? Let us know your thoughts at hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. I just want to bring a film up that relates to our blind spots. You know, every so often we talk about big films that we haven't seen that are often referenced in pop culture and we haven't got to them. I ticked off a massive blind spot in my film knowledge this week. A cult film that has just grown and just I've had it as long as I've been into film. I've heard this film referenced all the time, and I was like, I will get to that eventually, and I finally did. And that film is Evil Dead 2.
Evil Deader.
Too dead, too evil.
Too evil.
So, for context, if people don't know, why is this film significant and why did I go and watch it? Having not seen Evil Dead 1, okay? So first of all, this is Sam Raimi's like big thing, right? Sam Raimi made Evil Dead and obviously then Evil Dead 2, and he also made the Darkman trilogy and then eventually Spider-Man and Oz the Great and Powerful, which is a rogue one to bring up because he also that absolutely tanked. But he then most recently did Multiverse of Madness. So he's just a consistent director who's been around for a while, and he has this kind of it all comes back to Evil Dead because that's where he honed his craft and cut his teeth with this kind of sort of anarchic horror comedy, grotesque, gross out stuff. The reason I went straight in with Evil Dead 2 instead of Evil Dead is because Evil Dead 2 is not only rated much more highly than by most people, but it basically remakes the first film in the first 20 minutes and then carries on. So it acts as both a sequel to and a remake of the first one, which sounds completely bizarre, but this film behaves to its own logic, right? So it just makes sense straight away. Obviously it's a setup. It's like, a cabin in the woods. Guy goes there with his girlfriend. There's a book, and there's literally like the Mummy, that you should not read from the book. And he accidentally presses. Someone's left a tape recording recanting these spells from this book, and he accidentally clicks play, and it plays the recantation, and then soon
don't watch the tape.
And it looks like it was made for a budget of about 3p and a bit of shoelace, right? Yeah. But that's part of its charm.
Lovely.
So he made Evil Dead in the late 70s, and it took him ages, and he came back and basically redid it / made a sequel to it with Evil Dead 2. Now, why is it like a huge cult following? Because it is completely loony. It is the most bonkers fun, so much fun, and completely just original, passionate, exercise I've watched in such a long time. So I watched it with 4 mates, with loads of pizza, turned all the lights off, put this thing on full blast, and it's to call it horror is kind of misgiving because it's got a horror setting, horror tropes, and definitely horror gore and horror prosthetics and all of that stuff. But it has kind of the logic of when we were talking about it as friends, we said, imagine a Treehouse of Horror episode from The Simpsons, but in real life. Okay, there is. An example is like there's one bit where his hand gets possessed, and the hand tries to attack him, like the Pen is Blue scene from the Liar Liar, right?
Amazing scene.
And you could have this really grotesque thing, but you get this kind of scene of physical comedy where Bruce Campbell, who's brilliant as a physical comedian, running around this haunted cabin with this hand that's trying to kill him and is making these kind of squishy noises and is grabbing plates and smashing them on his head. And then you've got things like reanimated corpses coming out with chainsaws, and it's like, do you remember that? Did you see that Nick Cage film Mandy?
No,
right.
But I know
if anyone ever saw that, it's like that, but with a huge sense of humor and half the length. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And you've got just buckets of blood, huge, in the Thing.
I've seen clips of the level of blood. It's out of control.
And John Carpenter's The Thing, right? The prosthetics and the stuff. Imagine that, but just manyfold. It's so distinct and fun and everything. I know this is kind of random because I'm bringing up a film from 40 years ago, or whatever. But I bring it up for a reason, which I'll get to. But it was an absolute hoot, and I was like, I'm so glad I've seen this. It's not like anything. It's just so full of energy, and we were laughing, just so. And it's, guess how long it is, James?
Oh, you said short. I'm gonna say what? 80?
It's 85 minutes. It's golden. And it just, especially the first 20 minutes, it's like, we will make no space. We're just going to go. I mean, like, it's like gruesome and grisly when it needs to be, but Evil Dead 2, what a load of fun. Glad I saw it. The reason I bring it up is because it got us thinking, and a game I would like to play with you, which is about sequels that might be better than their originals.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to read out
some of them.
a list of films, and I want you to tell me,
Is the sequel better than the original?
exactly. I'm going to do it quick fire. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so James.
I've already got so many coming to my head.
Okay, I'm going to read out some films. Okay, so here we go then. I've just got a couple, and if you've got any more afterwards, we can do that, okay? So, Alien or Aliens?
I'm going to say Alien still for me, personally.
Okay,
But
okay.
you make a good, I think you make a very close comparison call.
Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049?
Ooh, I'm going to say 2049.
Oh,
even though
okay.
I think Blade Runner is, without a doubt, an amazing classic. What I'd rather watch tomorrow is Blade Runner 2049.
Interesting.
But I think that's a personal subjective thing.
Okay. Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick?
Maverick.
Yeah, me too. Hands down.
Easy.
Terminator or Terminator 2?
Ooh, let's go Terminator 2.
I think
let's go
so
Terminator 2. But I think Terminator is also fantastic.
I think Terminator 2 has just, it's the brand, that is the kind of the key brand identity of Terminator that we think of. You've watched the first one, it's still a little bit B-movie, you know, it's still a little bit like grungy, it's very dark, like it's literally dark, it's set all at night.
Yeah.
And the whole nightclub thing and like the identity of the Terminator.
really is like 80s grungy VHS,
Yes,
isn't it?
it is. And you know that bit when he's like getting the pencil, the screw knife to
Oh,
his
the
eye.
iconic peels the thing off. Yeah.
But it's much more emotionally interesting in the second one with the fact that the Terminator is
More of an
now a
action
benevolent figure, and then you've got the whole thing with John Connor's relationship with his mother. This sort of, they love each other, but she went rogue because of inheriting trauma from the first event. I think it's much more interesting the second one, and obviously the VFX with the liquid,
all of that.
Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2?
Toy Story 2.
Yeah, I think I
give
could
Toy
go for
Story
that.
2. That was in my head when you started saying this.
I think, but why?
I think Toy Story 2 is more complete as an emotional journey than Toy Story 1. There's a lot more to pluck at your heartstrings. I think the action scenes in Toy Story 2 are incredible. Like the idea of the conveyor belt airport luggage, I think is brilliant. And then catching the plane, I thought was incredible. The whole Jessie, when she loved me, that just breaks your heart.
It's what a sequel should be, which is it takes it and makes it
And then
more.
what they break into that building, the code,
Al's
the
Toy
traffic
Barn.
codes, Al's Toy Barn,
Oh my
and the
God.
whole thing with Zurg, and they rip off Empire Strikes Back.
Oh my God! And the Barbies having the party, when they're driving in the car. Oh my God!
the
I really
toy
want to
shop.
rewatch
Like, the
it.
toy shop is just such a genius idea. Of course, they're all like running around. Yeah, Toy Story 2.
Stinky P. Yeah, Toy Story 2. I
Incredible.
mean, obviously, perfect trilogy. Really,
Yes,
it is
yeah.
a perfect trilogy. But if you had to choose one, just going back on what you said, I think I would personally choose Aliens over Alien.
Yeah,
I
okay.
love Alien.
Yeah.
But Aliens, I could just throw on any time. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love how crafted it is. I love the characters. I love the way it's done. I love its restraint. We've
covered
talked this before,
Aliens,
but like the fact that there is no alien in Aliens until about an hour through is crazy.
I think I know, for me, watching Alien 1 was like really formative experience of new way of capturing horror, and just how silent I felt my brain went watching it, and how I just couldn't, and how so much of a slow burn it is, how normal the conversations felt on board, and the design is obviously what it's well known for. And
I think that's fair.
It's always burnt into my brain.
And then I would say I actually prefer Godfather to Godfather Part 2, not because I don't like Godfather Part 2. But Godfather Part 2 is longer. Again, I don't have a thing with length, but it's like 3 hours 30. And I think now the Vito Corleone young De Niro thing could be its own film.
I was meant to watch it with a friend a few weeks ago before I went away, but then I couldn't. We were scheduled to watch it and
it's
make
great.
guacamole
I mean,
and have a night and do it, but we couldn't do it.
Also, Godfather 1 has Brando, and Brando's so iconic in it, and I just love to watch that. Okay, well, that's a few. Are there any other sequels that you think?
We mentioned last week Empire Strikes Back over A New Hope. It's a better sequel.
Agreed.
Typically, the sequels, Spider-Man 2 to Spider-Man 1 in Tobey Maguire's is better,
X-Men
but
2
I
to
love
X-Men
both.
1?
Yeah, X-Men 2. I haven't seen those X-Men's in a really long time, but I think people regard 2 more than 1.
What about Too Fast, Too Furious or The Fast and the Furious?
Again, I have seen those, like the early Fasts I saw once
At the time.
ages ago.
Yeah.
Like when they would have come on TV,
Sure,
they would have
sure.
took it out on TV. So again, I couldn't comment. But I see the Fasts as a thing.
Yeah, but the
like
Furious is.
Mission Impossible.
Oh, God, yeah.
Had a soft reboot.
Yes, they did.
On, I want to say
4.
like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the series has very much been its own thing. Again, Mission
Like,
Impossible from
also
4.
like what they're doing with Scream as well. Like they did that.
Yeah, I very much view those franchises as in two halves, sort of finding their way, and then like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing like 7 of these. You know what's annoying me is we've got Fast X coming out,
Fast 10,
and it's the beginning of the end.
Kamli have just finished it.
It's like you're going to do another one. Like,
So
don't
it's
call it
Fast
don't call it the
X.2,
end. It makes
Fast
me think
11.
Fast X, again, not invested really in this. It's going to end on some sort. It's going to be a part 1 film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
going to
I
sort
know,
of
yeah,
go, oh, like,
milk the cow for all the cash we can.
why make $1 billion when you can make $2 billion?
Austin Powers 1 or Austin Powers 2? I would say Austin Powers 2.
I think
When I
2.
watched those a lot when I was a kid, always 2 and 3 I would revisit.
Spy Who Shagged Me.
Spy Who Shagged Me and
Yeah.
Goldmember.
Yeah.
Because they just get really silly, really
Yeah.
funny. And,
Yeah.
I love that you got Mini Me and, Fat
What else?
Bastard.
There's probably loads of other sequels.
Ace Ventura 2 is often funnier
Ventura
than
is
Ace
very
Ventura
good.
2.
Yeah.
The first one. You got the rhino scene. I mean, very problematic, some of those films now.
Yeah.
But we're not
I've
taking
not seen them in so long, but I've been meaning to like go
the
back.
first one,
and-
the whole reveal, the twist at the end of the first one is now a bit like,
Dark Knight, Batman Begins, people would say.
yeah, of course, that's very good. If there are any other sequels that we are missing that are
Sequels are
better
missing.
than the originals, then do let us know. We also live in an era where there's like belated sequels, like 2049 and Maverick.
Yes.
I think I would still take the original Blade,
Blade
Runner,
Runner.
because there's something just so.
I think I'm giving
poetic.
points to 2049 for being as good as it
was.
was. I'm almost like you've earned more respect for not sucking.
Do you know what I think will be better? Is I think Dune Part 2 will be better than Dune Part 1.
Yeah, I think. I very much every time you bring up Dune, I'm like I almost reserve judgment on giving too much of an opinion because it's such a half story we've received. It's
Yeah.
like a really like well delivered, beautifully presented, well acted, well written
Half a season.
half a season.
Yeah.
So like I can't really give a judge because I
It
haven't
is
read.
weird.
I don't
It's
know
like-
the material.
it's
We
like-
came out. We were like, what an
It's like a
experience.
tab you've left open in your mind.
Yeah.
You're not able to close yet, but you haven't been able, so you can't really give any
I
qualitative
feel like
opinion
I've
on it.
stopped halfway through a film and
Yeah.
I'm not therefore
We-
I can therefore give it or be an
We've
authority
actually
whether it's good.
We've watched a 4-hour film with an interval. The interval just happens to be 2 years.
yeah, I look forward to covering it when we see it.
This autumn. Okay, yeah, let us know about sequels, guys. If you
Are we specifically saying like the second of a film? Because I would say like Skyfall is the best of Craig's
I think when you get
Bonds.
to multiple series and iterations, MCU, even superhero stuff, it gets too much. But like Rockies, I'll allow the original Superman film.
Superman 2 over Superman 1.
Is that with the original?
That's with
Richard. Not Reeves. I think he Reeves.
Christopher Reeves.
Thank
yeah.
you.
You've got General
Zod,
Zod,
Terrence
and you've
Stamp,
got,
yes.
Yeah, you've got like Clark and Lois,
Sure.
Niagara Falls.
I don't think I've ever seen those.
I like
I think I
Superman
might have
2.
seen Superman 2 when I was about 6.
I watched Superman 1, want to say 2019.
That
and
must
it
have
is a-
dated so
It
much.
is it is a joy to watch.
Really?
It's completely like I am gonna
Yeah.
save you. It's such a sort of cuboid film.
Yeah.
Just like the most simple, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
the most simple, here is a movie, we're gonna run around the world to save it. But it was so uplifting and joyful. I was like, God, they just don't make it was a simpler time.
Yeah,
a simpler
simpler
film,
time.
And I loved it for what it was at that moment. I actually really enjoyed watching it.
Fantastic. Anyway, sequels, guys. Let us know. James, before we read our listeners' emails, I want to just answer or go back to a question that was asked a few weeks ago that we
Yes.
spent a lot of time on the spot debating over, which was who'd we have over for dinner? Do you remember?
Oh, okay.
And we
Yeah.
kind of just came up to arrived at a list.
It's a long
of just-
one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was about 9 people, maybe 7 guests plus us, and I think I would change it. I think we had like Jim Carrey in there and stuff. And I was-
Cancel the invites.
Well, first of all, I would say that actually a person I would really, I think Jim Carrey would be too much, and what I would swap him out for would be Bo Burnham.
Oh, I love Bo Burnham.
Bo
One
Burnham
of my
would be
favourite
funny,
comedians.
gracious, but very interesting, very
Yes.
passionate. He
always-
would match the tone of the evening wherever it went.
I always catch clips of him talking really well about our age of social media and
Yeah.
information
Very-
and how we sort of discourse with each other. He's
He
really
would-
good at it.
He would suit every single like key point of an evening, a dinner evening.
Yeah.
The light fun at the beginning, the dinner chat, the 2 a.m. round the fire outside. with
Yeah.
the-
And watch his film 8th Grade if you haven't seen it yet.
Wonderful
It's
film.
very good.
But I was then talking to my girlfriend, and that idea, I mentioned that I think I'd rather do it as couples. Mm-hmm. She refined it, and I think came up with a good one, which is just so couples already sorted. You and your other half, me and my other half.
Okay, yeah.
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Great. They'd be good fun.
Great fun. George and Amal Clooney, because then it's not all film people. So, Amal Clooney...
Someone's talking about something else.
That's something very important.
Yeah.
Great. John Krasinski and George Clooney have worked together in the past.
What did they do?
A very forgotten film called Leatherheads about American football in the 20s. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
But like there's, and again, George Clooney can do serious. George Clooney can do fun. Nice bit of charm there. I'd love to hear what Amal Clooney's doing. They have a house near where my parents live, where I'm originally from, and I could be like,
very nice.
oh, I've been to that area, and they could be like, that's great. Dinner chat sorted. And then Anna, my girlfriend, she did come up with this idea that this isn't a couple, but these are two famous celebrities that are very good friends that would come and would be good fun, which is Pedro Pascal and Sarah Paulson.
Oh, I didn't know they were friends.
They were really good friends, yeah.
I love Sarah Paulson. She's terrific.
Totally. And they, again, she can be funny, she can be serious. Same with Pedro Pascal. What a great evening that would be.
Pedro Pascal, so hot right now.
Exactly.
He'd be the big one to walk in the room.
All those people give me nice, respectful, warm, emotionally intelligent conversation. And then I'd be there like, guess the movie.
Can you guess the film? George Clooney, Amal Clooney edition.
Yeah. Guess the human rights abuse in 3, 2, 1. She's a human rights lawyer. That's the joke.
That's the joke.
Anyway, that was the answer thrown back. Do you like the fact that I keep answering these questions 3 weeks later?
I'm just imagining you on the tube being like, I should take Sarah Paulson. No, I think Pedro Pascal has just become the default escort vulnerable smaller thing to place.
Yes.
That's just what he does now.
I look forward to the gritty reboot of him as a UPS driver. I got this package for you.
Here's the box and it's a poodle. He's like, oh my God, I can't take you this far.
All right, on with some emails then. James, you go first.
First email is from William. William writes into the show and says, hi, James and George. George and James, whatever.
George and James.
James and George.
Well,
I think usually...
We say James and George because if you look at our thumbnail, James is on the left.
Left and right, yeah.
So like Ant and Dec. However, I would also say that if you are looking at us in like TikTok world,
you technically talk from the left.
I talk from the left, you're right.
Yeah.
But then we're talking from a very English Euro specific way of reading text, aren't
Hebrew.
we? If you're reading, you read right to left.
Yes.
And in some places in the world, up to down.
I once read a thing which is true for a lot of things, but not ever, which is the vowel sound that is alphabetically ahead goes first. So J and then jaw. So
that makes sense. A, B, C,
That's
D,
usually so like ant and deck.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
not true for everything, but you'll find the majority of name combos, the vowel sound
Also,
of the alphabet
not
works.
to overanalyze it, but like James is quite an open, springing sound.
It's
And George,
jaw.
I think you land on the
Down
George.
with
Yeah.
jaw.
You're up
You
with the
get J
James and
you're
you
down
George.
with the jaw, which
Yeah.
is how we tend to finish a sentence.
BBC News, London.
There have been many deaths this week. That's all for now. See you next week.
Anyway, what does William say?
I'm really enjoying The Last of Us on HBO. Have you finished it yet?
Yeah.
I have not. With the finale coming this week at the time of recording, I think it cements Craig Mazin as HBO's best creative force alongside his work on Chernobyl. Mazin and Druckmann wrote and directed the game, have clearly understood what to keep and what not to when translating the game to screen to the point where it makes me incredibly jealous. This is coming from someone who was burned a few years ago by the drastic adaptation of the War of the Worlds book by the BBC and Mammoth Screen, who thought it started out okay before showing its seams with its production budget, VFX, and general misunderstanding of what events from the book to use for dramatic impact. The Battle of Thunderchild scene in the series compared to the book and the Jeff Wayne album was pathetic. It was too short for a book with different perspectives and great detail. I, however, respect how it tried to modernize it, with the idea that the Martians were trying to pollute the Earth and therefore change the climate to be suitable for their kind, naturally bringing in questions of survival of the fittest. I see this... Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I thought that was in the original story with the red weed, or it's called like the red
Little
vines.
Yes. And I see this sort of modernization done even better in The Last of Us show. When you think about how the relationships between characters are done, it makes me think Mazin and this material would be his next perfect marriage. So I ask you, what creator do you wish adapted your favorite source material into a TV show or film? It could be a book, game, or whatever you like, and what would you want them to bring? P.S. Thematic controversial opinion is that I don't think Uncharted is that bad a film. I kind of agree. But I wish it adapted the games linearly. I also need the contact details of the person who said that Tron Legacy was great. Brackets, touche, but thought that Django Unchained was awful. What? WTAF? Kind regards, William Franz. Just quickly, Uncharted it's not good, but it's no way near as bad as it looked like or could have been. Right. It's like fairly forgettable and passable. But anyway, sorry, we both. Here you go.
Just on War of the Worlds before we get to the main question.
Yes.
Yes, because the BBC did a direct adaptation that's period specific, right? And then about a year later, they did another modern adaptation series, which had Daisy Edgar Jones in it before she went into Normal People.
God, miss me,
And and it was kind of like she then went huge because of Normal People, but then she still was clearly contractually obliged to be in this show. So I think they quickly wrote her out of season 2. It's got Gabriel Byrne, and I think they're still making it. But like, so we've had 2 War of the Worlds seasons in the past 5 years. Back to wait,
just want to make
Jeff
a point.
Wayne. Wait, Jeff Wayne's album. He mentioned. Do you know the Jeff Wayne musical album?
No.
War of the Worlds. This came out in the 80s, and then I when I was like 10, I heard it played. It is, well, it's that. It's a rock album, narrative audiobook kind of thing. And it's a little naff, but it completely rocks. Okay, the music in it is like, you got Richard Burton doing the narration, and then it's like boom, 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 and then it comes in with like the 80s sort of bam, bam, bam. It's a hell of a bop, and I have no shame in listening to it. So that's great. But back to what you were going to say.
Back up the email.
Right.
We're crawling back up. Just your point about, you know, the success of Maiden and Druckmann adapting. You made a comment about what to keep and what not to keep when translating the game to the screen. And I know I haven't finished the show yet, but I'm nearly there. But, you know, watching it, there's been a couple of different moments where I've gone, oh, they've not like gone for that bit, they've moved that out, or they've taken this tiny idea and fleshed it out, i.e. episode 3. And the more I keep watching it, the more I'm like, yeah, you can't one-for-one adapt game. And I really love the moments where they've stripped it back and gone, we can't just do this one-for-one. But there have been a cut. There was a certain moment where the Henry and Sam interaction, which I actually think hit a lot harder in the game than it did in the show. And I think there's just been different framings for how they want to create that relationship between Joel and Ellie and what the costs are. And then you cut to the next episode, which is them really for the first time going like, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And why am I hanging out with you? And that whole moment where she's like, everyone who's ever died and left me has left me apart from you. And I was like, oh, that's such a now like new framing to understand that, even though you've missed out certain bits. And I'm going to get to the end, which I hear is a little bit different, but just it's done very well.
Well, the thing is that, sorry, we are going to talk about The Last of Us now, just quickly on that point, because I watched it, finished it, liked it. My personal thing is that I think it was perfectly solid, good show. I still think it peaked early. The first episode I thought was great. Just the whole outbreak sequence in the first episode was just so tense, so engaging. What a great way to get you in. And then you get episode 3 with the Bill and Frank, which is just brilliant, just like such a high, such a great piece of television that I remember feeling afterwards. I was like, I don't know where can this go from there? Because that was such a good thing. I played the games once 10 years ago, and what I found is that through every episode, my brain would just suddenly remind me of something that I thought I'd forgotten. And what I felt more as the show went on, that I actually wish it'd done more stuff to surprise me, like the Bill and Frank thing, done more things to break away. Whereas I felt like it was, oh yeah, now we're going to do that thing, maybe from a different angle, but then we're going to do that, and then we're going to do that, and then every so often we'll do a direct shot-for-shot thing that will remind you of the game. So good, fine, yeah, solid, enjoyed it. I think I either needed to know the game a lot more or not at all. So my girlfriend really enjoyed it. She has no idea about the original game. So that was my thoughts.
Back down to the bottom of the email. So I ask you, what creator do you wish adapted your favourite source material into a TV show or film? George, anything that comes to mind? I
love that question. It's a great question.
Great
I really wish I had an answer for it on the spot.
I have quite an obvious one, which I may have mentioned before, but you get a Nolan to do Bond back in the beginning, 50s, Soviet era. Yeah. It's very obvious, like, get Nolan to ground it, but you bring Bond, like we did, you know, Daniel Craig's Bond was a reaction to Jason Bourne. It was modern, gritty, the camera was shaky. It sort of had to evolve from the Pierce Brosnan era. I feel like just going back into modern Bond doesn't have anything more to say. I would love them to, if you're going to reboot it, new actor, new cast, new setting, new environment, new period. Bring it back to its original source. You create the aesthetic and the charm that the older ones had, but with a modern lens, and you get a Nolan to do it. Because I've heard Nolan in interviews talk romantically about Bond and the way in which he would love to do it. But that's a big studio decision that needs to happen.
I'm wondering if, I mean, I've not thought this through at all. It just came to my head. What happens if Jordan Peele did The Thing?
Oh, beautiful. Like a still,
maybe.
More sort of,
Or, anyway, I don't really have an answer, but you've given one, so that's fine. Next up.
Podcasting.
And our next email is quite similar to William's notes. This is from Oscar, who says, hey, James and George, hope you both are doing fantastic.
I am.
I found your podcast about a week ago by, you guessed it, TikTok, and I've become obsessed with it, listening to it wherever I can. Great. My question for you guys is, do you have any dream movie collaborations, whether that's a director working with a cinematographer or actors working together or anything else? For me, I would love to see David Tennant working on David Tennant working with a Aaron Sorkin script.
I'd like to see more Aaron Sorkin scripts.
I'd like to see more David Tennant, actually.
Oh, yeah,
I would like to see David Tennant in like A-list movies.
Yes.
More.
Yeah.
Doing more things.
Even though he's incredibly rated.
He's incredibly rated, but I think outside of the UK, he's known as like, oh, he was in one season of Jessica Jones.
Whereas in the UK,
and the Good Omens thing.
Yeah, I think because he's always had one hand in like prestigious homegrown TV and theatre.
Yes.
I feel like he's obviously done really high-profile films, but he's always kind of spread himself in such an oh-so-actory way across lots of different things.
Yeah.
But he's just phenomenal.
He's a wonderful actor. Wonderful actor. Thank you so much for the hours of entertainment and the endless movie suggestions. Oscar from Livingston in Scotland.
Thank you for telling us where you are, Oscar.
I like that. Good day to you. I don't have a
yeah, I mean, like Nolan Bond was the one I just mentioned.
Well, but also like actor-director combinations. An actor working
director combinations. I would love to see. Pause for thought.
Again, I'm making this up on the spot, but I would say I love Kurt Russell. I would like to see Kurt Russell do more stuff, and I think we're due the legacy era of Kurt Russell. That isn't the Christmas Chronicles, okay?
Okay, yeah.
And I would say, why don't you give him to the king of the movie comeback? If you want to have a comeback that shows that you're a proper actor, but also puts you in a role that no one's ever seen you before, you call Darren Aronofsky. So let's have Kurt Russell in a Darren Aronofsky movie.
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky's a good one to throw in there because he could do loads of different things with you and sort of mix it up. And there's no point though.
Yeah, but there you are. Maybe Oscar is our answer, perhaps.
Bobby writes in and says, lads, absolutely love the podcast. I know this isn't specifically a film question, but since you occasionally cover notable TV stuff, I was interested to hear your thoughts on the state of things at the moment.
The state of things?
Hello, everyone.
Look at the state.
This is the state of things at the moment.
Look at the state of these things.
After the announcement that Succession is ending after only 4 seasons, when many people were expecting it to run for at least 5, I feel as though, ironically, there isn't a clear successor when it comes to original prestige television. Better Call Saul ended last year, and Barry is also coming to a close. And even if the IP stuff like Marvel and Star Wars seems to be looking to limit their output after backlash around their lack of quality control, where do you guys feel TV is going? And has the age of prestige buzz-driving drama come to a close? Cheers,
okay,
Bobby.
How to answer that quickly? Bobby, thank you,
Quickly
Bobby.
on Succession ending after 4 seasons. Succession is out tomorrow from the day we're recording this.
Yes,
episode 1 will be out by the time you're listening. Which I hear is great.
I've also heard that the decision for it to be the last season was made in the edit. From what I've heard,
which is kind of
because like Sarah Snook has said that when they recorded their last scene. No, I've said that. They haven't said that. I'm reading between the lines.
Oh, I see.
And Sarah Snook has said in an interview that like when she filmed her last scene, she wasn't sure that this was was the last season or whatever. Wow. And I have a feeling they looked at it in the edit and went, actually, do you know what? Let's leave it here. But James, isn't that better than the opposite, which is let's run this thing as long as we can?
Of course, we lose so many great TV shows to that. Like, you know, you've got people's attention, you're making money, do it. But we also had Game of Thrones rush its ending.
This isn't rush though.
No, I'm not saying. But like we felt like we were halfway through a story and we got one more season.
Well, we'll have to just see in 10 weeks.
But
time,
I don't know why that sits a little bit like a red flag to me. But so far, everyone has said Succession season 4, the early reviews have been very promising.
And on where's TV going, I do think TV is just going to continue being great. You say about Succession ending, but then like The Last of Us has just come out and been like really successful. I don't know how much The Last of Us can run because obviously it's prohibited. They're going to wait for Bella Ramsey to be older, aren't they?
I thought they said they started season 2.
I haven't done my research.
I saw Neil Druckmann tweets. Part 2 is on the way.
Okay, fine.
So I think they're just going to go for it.
So I think prestige TV is going to keep growing. We might reach a point where there's tailoring. We already had that bit a few years ago where shows stopped being 13 episodes long, became 8 episodes, and then shrank down to 6. And if you're lucky and you get a big budget one like The Last of Us or House of the Dragon, they become 10.
Yes.
But I think you might just get that.
I think the death of the cinema is a bell that has been rung for many years. I think cinema is going to become a place for your very big action blockbuster. I'm being very cynical, a very big action blockbuster. And that mid-tier that has been missing in film is going to thrive in TV.
Which it has been. Yeah.
Which it has been. And I think all of those stories are just going to be, there's going to be less of an assumption that we're making a feature film out of this. And I think a lot of people are going to, their default answer is going to be, let's look to do this as a TV show first. Also, I think that's going to happen more and more.
There was a roundtable I watched with Michael Keaton talking about why, from an actor's point of view, they like doing TV. And he says, in a film you get Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, but in a TV show, it's
Act
endless.
13.
No, it's endless Act 2, which is you've had the establishment, and before you get the resolution, you've got this endless exploration of Act 2, which is, conflict and character exploration, and all of them around the table. Brian Cox was there, Samuel L. Jackson. They were like, "Yeah, this is like, so exciting." And
more rewarding for actors. They've got more chance.
I think it's more creatively rewarding all round. And I think we have a couple of emails later about TV as well. So, Bobby, I think don't despair. I think as soon as you find your next favorite show, you'll change your opinion. And I think you're sad that Better Call Saul's finishing. I've heard nothing but amazing things about Barry. I've never watched it, but it's ending. And obviously Succession is finishing. But then, like last year, what a great year we had with White Lotus and House of the Dragon. And
the market will follow where attention is, and attention is on people's home screens and on their iPads and phones and where they're watching it.
So thank you for that email, though, Bobby.
Straight in.
It's your email.
I just read Bobby's one.
Did you? I thought I read it. Oh, sorry. Okay. This next email is from Matthew in Sunderland. All right, lads. He writes that as that. All right, lads.
All right.
I've got a controversial movie. No, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just kidding. I've got a controversial movie opinion to share. It's that I find the main characters in films are some of the least likable characters. I often find myself disliking them and being drawn to other characters instead. The main culprit being Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I find this with the other characters like Frodo, Luke Skywalker, Neo, Katniss Everdeen, Thor, and Adonis Creed most recently.
Okay.
A particular irritation in films are main characters who are the chosen one. Well, that is literally every single one you have mentioned. And I think
they often have to be a very blank canvas to react. You kind of adopt your mindset into them. But
it really draws me away from the character. There are, of course, exceptions to the rule, like Forrest Gump, Ripley, Caesar the Ape, Spider-Man, Truman Burbank, but I find generally that the rule to be more true often than not when I struggle with the identity of them. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Love what you guys do. I'm also excited to know I'm always excited when the new podcast drops. Yes. It makes my day. P.S. I'm so curious as to what James does for a job. The traveling sounds amazing. In my head, I imagine you're some sort of international spy.
Yes.
And the podcast is to throw us off the scent. I would also pay to see James recreate your own version of planes, trains, and automobiles when you're on your travels.
I used to like, yes, I'm a spy.
Yeah. What perfect hiding in plain sight with the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, go back on your points here, Matthew, a second. As James and I have just said, when your problem is with like characters who are the chosen one, and it's like, well, that was what I was going to say. Every single one of those characters is burdened with about being the center of the universe.
Yeah.
So it's natural to find Han Solo more interesting than Luke. Right?
Yeah.
With the other ones you mentioned as exceptions, it's like, well, Forrest Gump is a completely just like distinct character in himself, like behaves and acts like a different character. Ripley assumes the mantle because it begins as like horror trope dynamic of it's a group of people, and Ripley is thrust always reluctantly into the center.
Yeah, and it's common sense and the rationale.
Exactly. Caesar the Ape is the underdog, which I quite like, and also he's an ape, which helps.
Yeah, and also
it's like different character. He's learning to speak, learning to find his voice. Spider-Man, well, I guess I don't really have a thought on that one. And Truman, I mean, Truman is interesting because he's an avatar for us, and that he is. It's interesting seeing a character who is not at a low point, but is at like he's almost a bit of a Neo level where it's just, he's not the savior of reality. He is just switched off and he's having to save himself. It's very specific to him. Maybe.
I like Neo as a character, even though again, still very vanilla, but he's so easy to follow, and he's this like underdog with no purpose. And it's it's a very reactive role.
I would say that one thing, having talked about Cabaret, is that there are some characters who I find are there as just to react as a way into a world, to like Nick Carraway and Gatsby, or like the English/American tourist in Cabaret who arrives in Berlin. It's kind of like they didn't really have any character traits, but they're just there to look at the.
You just mentioned musicals, made me think of Roxy Hart in Chicago, who is quite vain and like has this idea of herself, and she's flawed and wants to be famous,
character.
but also like great character.
They're all quite good characters in Chicago, actually.
They are, yeah.
Cellophane, Mr.
Cellophane.
So I understand your thing there, but I do think it's because these people are just like basically Christ-like figures with unbelievable powers who realize that they are the center of the universe.
But like Tony Stark, very likable, and I don't find him. He's sort of a hero's journey, but not as close to what I'd say like a Harry Potter is. But Tony Stark's very refreshing and funny and witty. And
yes, he's not conventional.
Next one is from Frederica, who says, "Hi guys."
Hello, Frederica.
Frederica here again. Second time writing in. Am I a friend of the show yet?
Welcome,
Frederica.
Of course
You're a friend
you are.
of the show. I christen you. I listen to the pod while I'm
Other
at the gym.
denominations are available.
Yeah. The power of PULP compels you. I just hope some like liquid just
like a 4DX movie just sprays out their phone.
I listen to your pod while I'm at the gym, so thank you for making my early morning workouts a little less painful.
If you are listening to this at the gym right now, Frederica, you could do it.
I
Keep
hope you
going.
are just at the bottom of a squat, just really going.
Benching the trainer on top of you.
And I just went, this next one is from Frederica, and she's just trapped under the weight, like under your neck. I hope you just collapsed on your treadmill. Frederica, it's your email time.
Okay.
While I'm at the gym, early morning walkouts a little less painful. I'm writing in to get your thoughts on the art of a good trailer. My husband and I like to do movie tapas. We go to YouTube and watch a load of new trailers to get a taste, see what I did there, of what films and shows are coming out soon. It's the perfect activity when you don't have time to commit to actually watching anything. Do you have any favorite trailers that you can remember? And what makes a good one? I vividly remember the trailer for Man of Steel, yes, which promised a gritty, grounded version of Superman. Turns out the trailer was better than the film. I personally think there are too many that reveal the entire plot. It feels lazy when there are so many other ways to set the tone and pique someone's interest. George, we've done an episode on some of the great trailers.
Yes.
I think we should do another one because there are so many. Yes. Man of Steel has a great trailer, and the promise of what Man of Steel, promise of what the Man of Steel films could have been is very exciting. Yes. I don't think Man of Steel is as bad as you remember it. I really think.
I don't think it's bad.
No, and the score is
it's long, but I got with it.
Yeah, I said before, I think Man of Steel deserves a sequel, but it won't really get it now. But I have done this before where we just watch many trailers. But what I do find, to your point, is that I'm almost like, I've seen enough now.
Yes, yeah.
I'm in. When I know I'm sold within 10 seconds, I have to go.
Yeah.
I'll go to my girlfriend, like, do we want to watch this? Are you in?
Yeah.
And we decided because now we should stop, which is kind of.
I would just say, have we talked about trailers recently? I can't remember, but
we have. We've said about not
did
wanting
I
to watch them
mention
and spoiling.
Watchmen? Because I don't think I mentioned
go
that in the episode, but a trailer that I remember at the time, like loving and would watch just repeatedly, was the trailer for 2009's Watchmen, which had the Smashing Pumpkins like, these are dark times. I'll whisper. No. It was just brilliant. And I was like, what the fuck is a Watchmen? Yeah. What the hell is this?
I'm in.
That and I remember the 300 trailer as well. I don't know if we talked about that.
I get very switched off from a trailer when they have this exact same formula of all the modern trailers.
Really?
Like, just tell they're trying to do the reduced piano theme and like bringing back an old character. Like the Jurassic World films are clear examples. Like, dun, dun, dun. You want to go back to the island? You're saying you want me back? Dun, dun,
Anyway. Sorry, what else?
Also, Frederica continues to say, also, a while back, you asked for TV recommendations, and I wanted to suggest Slow Horses on Apple TV+,
Right.
a witty British show which follows a group of misfit MI5 agents. The writing is fantastic, and Gary Oldman's performance alone makes it worth a watch. Would love to know if you've seen it. Gary Oldman, for me, is a draw, and I have seen the show, but I need to watch it. I've seen it advertised.
My parents have watched it, and they loved it. But they love, like a lot of people of a certain demographic,
that kind of
edgy, crime-based
gritty
stuff.
detective sort of on his last legs.
I would watch it. I need to basically I think I got a new phone recently, and I need to what's it
Get
like?
your Apple TV
Get my
Plus free
before
thing.
the offer
Yes,
ends. So I
yeah,
need to
do
get
it.
that done. So because Blackbird, I also want to see
And
as well.
you should watch We Crashed. I thought that was really good. Severance as well.
Let me just write off the rest of my social life for the year to watch the films, watch the TV shows I should have watched last year.
Tape your phone to your eyes. Thanks for all the great content. Honestly, don't know how you do it with full-time jobs. I've been listening since the beginning, so it's great to see you guys starting to get the recognition you deserve. Frederica, sent from my iPhone, leaving this in on purpose, and then again, sent from my iPhone, which is just so annoying. I never told them what I did for a job, which is just I make videos.
Yes.
Yeah, I work in video production.
I would just say Frederica says she's been watching since the beginning. Is that episode 1 or is it like in the first 10 episodes? We'll allow it. But Frederica, thank you for staying with us.
That's great.
And I hope you walk around with a t-shirt and you go like, PULP Kitchen, best podcast I know. You must follow. You must like. You must subscribe.
And thank you everyone for sharing the podcast. We've had good numbers in 2023. We've got a good increase in our audience, which is very, very exciting.
Next email is from Taha, who says, "Hello, James and George."
Hello.
They went for James and George. See, not George and James. James
Yeah.
and George. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I, like many listeners, found myself sucked into your podcast through TikTok. And now, whenever I see a Pret and a Leon, which are right outside my university, I think of Pret a Manger the Amateur. That's very good.
That was my best ever.
Yeah. The opposite of Leon the Professional. Very good. Now your podcast is part of my weekly routine. That's great, Taha. Hello, and thank you for making us part of your week.
Good.
Anyway, last week I finally had the chance to watch JoyLand, a Pakistani film by director and writer Saeem Sadiq and producer Taha has very kindly put in the phonetic pronunciation of these names. So I'm just trying to skip to where the phonetic bit's written. So and producer Samut Kasut. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It won the Queer Palm and Jury Prize in 2022 at the Cannes Film Festival. The film follows a meek guy who falls in love with a trans woman while his wife feels stuck in domesticity. The film was steeped in controversy in Pakistan due to the inclusion and love affair with a trans woman, which did not allow it much viewership, which makes me deeply disheartened as the film went on to win Best International Film at the Independent Spirit Awards. The film is absolutely gorgeous to look at with a plethora of shots you can just pause and stare at for hours. The story is incredibly well told, and the characters are so well fleshed out that even someone who appears on screen for one scene feels like they exist outside the film. I love it when a film does that. Fantastic. I genuinely cannot find the words to do justice to how much this film moved me. This is great to heart. It made me freaking ecstatic that films like this are being made in Pakistan. Well done. I've not seen it, but I want to high-five you with your enthusiasm. Great. My aim is for people who listen to this podcast just to know about this film and try and watch it if there is a screening nearby. I also wanted you guys to, if you had the chance to see it, let me just finish on that, to check out if there's screenings nearby. I haven't seen JoyLand, but I've seen it advertised and I've heard great things as well. I will definitely be adding it to my list. I also wanted to ask if you guys had the chance to see any Pakistani films, and if not, let me provide a list for more recent ones I would highly encourage watching. Shamefully, I cannot name a single Pakistani film I've seen.
No, and I just want to say I love it when someone who knows so much more about a certain genre or a type of film than us, and they give us a great list.
Yes.
And I just feel like that's such a good resource for people listening
Absolutely.
to like check out films. And for us, here's a list of great films that you
This
can
is
go
a
check
bit
out.
like Bevan's original Irish email, Irish cinema email, and then we get about Pakistani cinema.
Yeah, the Pakistani correspondent.
Thank Taha. Whoa, here we go.
So Bevan is the Irish correspondent for all things Irish.
Taha, here are the films that you Taha lists out. And again, forgive my pronunciation. Khuda Kay Liye from 2007, Bol from 2011, Manto from 2015, Kamli from 2022, Zindagi Tamasha from 2022, The Legend of Maula Jatt from 2022, and JoyLand.
I will put this list in the description of the video and the Spotify description if you want to check it out, because I think you might have missed them quickly as we read past them.
I hope you guys have a great day, and I keep looking forward to hearing your podcast. Thank you very much. P.S. Can I be the official international Pakistani student studying in London of this podcast?
I hereby name you the official Pakistani student studying in London.
Best
of the podcast.
Taha. Thank you so much, Taha. That's a really wonderful email, and we always love to hear about like effusive, passionate, and detailed part of like your film passion, and that's just so informative for us. So thank you,
guys. We have so many more emails to read out, and I'm sorry we can't get to all of them. Again, just in the interest of time, we will end it here. Please keep sending your emails in. We will keep reading them out. Thank you for emailing in. Remember, if you wanted to email into the show, you can do by emailing hello@PULP Kitchen podcast, like so many of you have today.
It's only taken 69 episodes, James, for you to get that right.
And I say it like 5 times an episode, so
I know.
I'd have it down.
Thank you very much again, guys. But let's play a game. James, as ever, let's finish this episode of the show with a game.
Okay.
We're going to be playing Cast List Countdown today. If you are a new listener, you might know this from TikTok or Instagram, where we read out the cast list of a movie in random order, not usually, definitely not with the leading person first.
No.
And James has to try and guess what film it is before I arrive at the end of the cast, okay?
So sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. you know,
I'm nervous.
constant
Yeah.
wheeze. No, it's gone. It's gone.
James, this first film, are you ready?
Yes.
Guess the film based on its cast in 3, 2, 1. Pink, as in the singer.
Okay.
Jolie Richardson. Josh Gad. Gwyneth Paltrow. Tim Robbins. And one more name. Mark Ruffalo. Great cast.
I don't know this film.
And I think most people have completely forgotten this film. I've never heard this film referenced after it came out. Okay?
Go on.
Slipped away. That is a film called Thanks for Sharing, which is about a sex addiction support group.
I
Do
know
you remember
of this
it? Do you
film.
remember it?
Yes, I know of this film.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Gwyneth
exactly.
Paltrow.
I remember seeing the poster and I was like, I'd give that a go on a Sunday evening.
How's Pink?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, right,
I
yeah.
was literally on my way over here today, and I don't know why, but maybe I was thinking about Tim Robbins because I don't see him in enough stuff
No.
now. And I was like, oh wait, he was in that film that I didn't see, that I don't think anyone saw. I've never heard anyone talk
Do you know
about
what?
it.
It was floating to the front of my brain almost. Like
Yeah.
the little sort of like Pink. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
there's only
So many.
So many.
I was thinking you'd think an animation.
When you said Josh Gad, I was wondering if it was an animation.
That
Then
reads like a car. That's the last time I remember Gwyneth Paltrow being in a film that wasn't an MCU
You
film.
lost me when
actually.
it said one more, and I was like, oh, then if it should have been more of an ensemble cast
Yeah.
of characters, then you were like, it's actually a small thing.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for sharing. What year?
2014.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
There you go. First one.
okay, next up. Okay, film number two is the cast list as follows. Guess the film based on its cast. Steve Carell,
Okay.
Dean Norris, Paul Dano, Bryan Cranston, Greg Kinnear,
Slow down. Okay, go on.
Toni Collette, Alan Arkin, last one, Abigail Breslin. Any clues?
It's not Lovely Bones?
No.
No, that was with Saoirse Ronan.
Correct.
Uh,
and none of those other people.
No, go on. Who is it?
Okay, that one more time. I'm just going to give you Steve Carell, Dean Norris, Paul Dano, Bryan Cranston, Greg Kinnear, Toni Collette, Alan Arkin, Abigail Breslin is, of course,
Little Miss Sunshine.
There you go. I threw you off. I was hoping that Bryan Cranston and Dean Norris would throw you off because
Yeah.
Dean Norris is just is like in one scene is pretty Breaking Bad, so he wasn't known to people. And Bryan Cranston, I can't even remember him in this movie, so he must have been in one scene. But Steve Carell as well, I think we forget that Steve Carell is in that
He's
film
in
because
that
it's not
as
a very
like-
Steve Carell role.
And really, like, before he started doing non-Steve Carell roles.
That's it. So this is
Yeah.
2007. He's still in, US Office kind of. It's only
Yes.
just taking off. It's like pre that.
Bryan Cranston, yeah,
I know.
threw me off.
And then
But
obviously the ever good.
I know who Alan Arkin is.
He's
now.
the grandpa.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
it's probably
course.
one of his most famous roles. I think he got nominated for an
Yeah,
Oscar
yeah,
for
he
it or
was
whatever. And that's like the first time I saw Paul Dano as well. The same year
Young,
he had that and There Will Be Blood.
Emo Paul Dano. Yeah,
That's right, is
wow, is
this-
it straight after that?
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
what?
And then
what an
Abigail
actor.
Breslin has to be last because like how many other
Yes.
Abigail apart from Zombieland?
Yeah, yeah.
No
true,
disrespect to
true,
Abigail
true,
Breslin.
true.
I'm just saying that's the.
I'd like to
most famous
rewatch Little
film.
Miss Sunshine because I think it's a good
For me,
film.
that is very much of its. I mean, like, not. I agree. I haven't seen it in a long time. But when I think about it, that is like very much of its time. 2007. It was like the industry just suddenly said, "Oh, like we like indie films too, right?" Like it wasn't just the 90s.
I
like,
also feel like its really bright box art did a lot of favors for it.
Yeah,
for
the
standing
running
out,
after the
running after the
Volkswagen.
bus.
But it was also like, it's kind of like we're not going to do a conventional like Hollywood ending, but we're going to have like some kooky bits in it and maybe like an acoustic guitar.
we're so quirky and weird family.
Did you see Juno? Hey. All right, James. Last
I love
film
the
now.
soundtrack.
Yeah, it's so good. Have you ever heard of Sufjan Stevens? Okay, last film, James. James, film number 3, the last film. Can you guess the film based on its cast, which are as follows: Robert De Niro,
Whoa.
Rami Malek, Zoe Saldana, Timothy Oliphant, Mike Myers, Matthias Schoenaerts, Anya Taylor-Joy, Andrea Riseborough, Michael Shannon, Stacked cast. Taylor Swift, Chris Rock, John David Washington, Margot Robbie,
Amsterdam.
and last of all, Christian Bale. The
what-
most amazing
yes.
cast for the most unmemorable movie of all time.
By the time you said Taylor Swift, I wasn't really concentrating because I was so fixated. I was like, Taylor Swift, I saw her so recently. Amsterdam. Great cast.
Great cast.
Great
And that's the only thing you can say about the film, really.
You could say where it was shot.
Yes,
And there's
yeah,
Amsterdam.
yeah. But I think
Yes.
I like the fact Robert De Niro being in it. He could be in anything,
Yeah.
but he's not the main character.
Mike
People throw you
Myers.
off.
I swore it was animation. I thought it was Madagascar at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, that could be my
I thought
next
you could
one.
come up with like David Schwimmer, Ben Stiller. I was like, oh, Madagascar 2.
That was Amsterdam, the David O. Russell film from last year, which we enjoyed
Yes.
going to the premiere to, but we
Yes.
did, again, that is not it's a load of nonsense, really. It's a load of nothing.
Waffly film.
Very, very empty calories, that film. So that concludes the game for this week, and that concludes our show for this
Guys,
week.
thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. We thank you so much for being with us. Don't forget, we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday.
Oh, we try to when James is available.
Yes, in the country with Wi-Fi.
As ever, please continue to show your support and your love by following us on Instagram and TikTok. We still put out plenty of clips and stuff on there. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, spread the word, send the link to people.
Send us your emails to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We love to read them out.
Absolutely. So stay in touch, stay connected. We love it. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to you joining us next week for episode 70
70. See you
of
next
Pop
week.
Kitchen. Bye-bye.